Hello, and welcome to The Sleepless Mythologist. I'm really glad you're here. Whether it's late at night and you're winding down, or early morning and you're seeking stillness before the day begins. Wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is, I hope you're somewhere soft. Maybe under a blanket, maybe watching the sky through a quiet window. Maybe you're half-folding laundry, letting your mind wander. Either way, thank you for choosing to drift a little deeper with me tonight. If you enjoy these slow, thoughtful journeys into myth and memory, it means a lot if you tap the like button or subscribe. It helps keep this quiet little corner glowing, and I'm truly grateful for it. Tonight's story is about gods who don't announce themselves. Not the thunderous kind, but the quiet ones. The ones who walk dusty roads, who sit beneath trees, who ask for water and offer nothing in return but the chance to be seen. This is Chapter 1, Footsteps in Dust. A slow walk through stories where the divine passes unnoticed, where kindness matters more than crowns, and silence holds more truth than speech. So whenever you're ready, let your eyes soften, your breath slow, and come with me down a road where the dust remembers. There is a road in your memory, though you've never walked it. A narrow path, warm with sun, scattered with stones worn smooth by time. Dust clings to your sandals, and the air smells of clay, wind, and something older, something that watches. You do not walk alone. You never have. Across cultures, across centuries, there is a story, retold in different shapes and accents, that the divine walks beside us, not in the glory of heavens, but hidden in the quiet corners of earth. Not robed in fire, not throned in stars, but disguised as travelers, beggars, strangers. You pass a tree gnarled and leaning, its roots like fingers in the soil. Under its shade, an old man once asked for water. The woman who passed him by never knew she'd turned away a god. In Greece, they say it was Zeus and Hermes, cloaked in rags, seeking kindness in a village grown too proud. Only one humble couple invited them in. Only their home, simple and poor, became a temple when the storm came. The dust remembers, not in words but in silence. It holds the shape of those footsteps long after they vanished. You feel it now, that quiet hush of something larger moving just beyond sight. The way the wind lifts a corner of your sleeve. The way birds fall still when you round the bend. There is a story from India of Lord Shiva, blue-throated and wild-haired, who walks among villagers as a sadhu, unshaven, dusty, laughing to himself. People ignore him, some scorn him. One child offers a handful of rice. The next morning, the village well runs sweet again. The gods, it seems, do not always wish to be seen. They wish to see. They come not for praise, but to witness what we are when we are unguarded. You pass a well. A woman once sat here, head bowed, her jug empty. In Egyptian tales, it was Isis, grieving, dressed as a widow. No one knew her name. No one knew she was searching for her lost love, Osiris. She listened to women's gossip. She learned the songs of the living. Even a goddess, perhaps, must learn again how to weep. What is it about the road that invites the divine to descend? Perhaps it is the way the world softens out here, far from palaces and temples. Out here, all are equal beneath the open sky. A god disguised as a weary man will not be noticed by kings, but you might offer him a drink. You might see the flicker of fire in his eyes. There is a rhythm in walking like prayer. Step, breath, step. Even when you stop, the path continues. This is how myth travels. From one telling to the next, from dust to lips to sleep. In Japan, there is the tale of Jizo, the gentle protector of travelers and children. He appears as a monk, always walking, always listening. Some say he helps souls cross rivers. Others say he simply waits at crossroads, a hand resting on his staff. You pass such a crossroad now. A stone statue waits beneath a faded red cloth. Someone has left a bowl of rice. Someone else a single flower. You do not speak, but you nod and feel the nod returned. In your own life, there may have been a moment, a stranger's kindness, a question asked at just the right time, a smile that felt like an answer. Who knows what form the divine takes? Who knows what it means to be visited? The stories rarely give us certainty. Only footprints, only dust, and maybe that's enough. You sit now at the edge of a field. The sun leans low, and the light turns golden, heavy, like honey poured from the sky. You watch the breeze stir the grass. You hear something like music, but it might be the wind. It might be something else. You close your eyes. Around the world, across centuries, people have wondered. If a god walks past you, will you feel it? Will your skin rise? Will your breath pause? Or will it be nothing at all? Just the sense that something precious has just passed, and you missed it by a blink? In these moments, you remember the stories. The ones where divinity comes not to be worshipped, but to watch. Not to rule, but to walk beside. And so the path stretches onward. Dusk turns to twilight. The figures in the distance grow faint, then vanish. But something in you lingers. A thought, presence, a question. And just ahead, beyond the bend, there is a flicker of firelight. A traveler waiting beside it. Who is he? And why does he never speak first? The fire crackles low, and the night draws close around you like a shawl. There is comfort in this circle of light. The way it flickers on your fingers, the way the scent of smoke curls into your breath. You sit with quiet hands and open ears, and from the edge of the dark, a shape appears. A traveler, worn boots, a hood drawn low. No sound but the crunch of earth beneath each step. He does not speak, not at first. He waits. In old stories, this is the moment where the divine slips into your world. Not with thunder, not with glory, but with quiet. A god at your fire, wrapped in the look of a stranger. No introduction, no sign, just the steady presence of someone who has walked far. You offer him warmth, place to sit, piece of bread, a gesture, and without knowing why, you've opened the door to something sacred. Across time, this moment repeats. In Greek myth, Zeus and Hermes wander the hills of Phrygia dressed as beggars. Hundreds of doors close on them until one opens. A poor couple, Baucis and Philemon, offer what little they have. Simple food, a bed of straw, kind words. It's not much, but it's everything. Hospitality, the ancients believed, was a ritual of the soul. To offer comfort without knowing who stands before you, that is where grace begins. The stranger accepts your offering. He sits. The firelight touches his face, and you glimpse a tired kindness in his eyes. Not quite mortal, not quite beyond. In the cold lands of the Inuit, stories tell of spirits who arrive in human form, silent and watchful. They approach igloos in storms, asking nothing, offering less. But the wise know to welcome them in, to share meat, warmth, and stories. Refuse, and the wind turns cruel. Welcome, and your home is blessed with balance. The lesson is old and soft as snow. Generosity is never wasted. You pass the traveler a bowl of lentils. Steam curls into the dark. He eats slowly, as if remembering each bite. You do not ask who he is. You don't need to. In many traditions, it is not the gift itself, but the giving that matters. The bread does not need to be sweet. The mat does not need to be clean. Only the heart behind the offering must be open. The traveler begins to hum, an old tune, wordless. It circles the fire like mist. You don't know the melody, but it feels familiar, like something your ancestors once knew. In the Vedic hymns of India, there is the story of an old guest who visits the sage Yajnavalkya. He is not just a man. He is Agni, the fire god, cloaked in human skin, testing the sage's welcome. In the end, it is not the food or the lodging that reveals truth, but the questions asked and the space held for listening. The stranger turns to you now. His voice is low. Why do you offer without knowing who I am? You think of an answer, but no words rise. Instead, you pour him another cup of tea. You don't need to explain. The gesture speaks for you. The fire dims. Ash drifts like petals. And still, the presence remains. Faint but full. He may leave soon. He may have already left. Or perhaps he was never really there in the way you thought. Some say the gods test us not to find fault, but to remind us who we truly are. Not in temples, not in prayers, but in the moments no one will ever see. And so the fire glows soft and amber. The bowl is empty, the guest gone. You look to the stars. Some seem closer than they were before. One in particular blinks, then fades behind a cloud. And you wonder if he'll return, if another stranger will arrive tomorrow, needing bread, needing silence, needing nothing at all. You rest now knowing that kindness, offered freely, quietly, leaves behind a warmth no wind can take. But just as your eyes begin to close, you hear a sound in the distance. Footsteps, perhaps, or the rustle of a woven shawl. And you feel a new story arriving, soft as thread and bound for the loom. The fire has dimmed, but not gone out. Its glow is low and steady, like a breath at rest. Above, clouds gather, but they do not break. There is thunder somewhere, far off, curled up like a sleeping lion. Tonight, you are not walking. You are listening, not for storms, but for stillness. You might expect a thunder god to enter with fury, with lightning clenched in one fist and anger in the other. But sometimes even stormbringers close their eyes. Even the sky must learn silence. In the myths of the Yoruba, Shango is the god of thunder and fire. He is fierce, yes. He can crack the sky open with his voice. But there is another side to him, one that sits in shadow after the battle has passed. A man who once ruled as king, who felt the weight of pride, who knew what it meant to lose. They say that after his fall, Shango disappeared into the storm, not out of rage, but to cool the fire in his own heart. In his silence, the rains returned. The trees began to bloom again. You sit with that image. A god not shouting, not flashing across the sky, but resting, like a mountain that remembers its own fire. In Norse tales, Thor is thunder itself, strong, loud, impossible to miss. But even he grows weary. There is a lesser-known story. One evening, far from Asgard, Thor walks among farmers. He does not carry Mjolnir. He does not boast. He listens to a woman's story about her son's fever. He helps mend a roof. He eats the simplest meal and blesses no one. And still, the crops grow taller that season. Sometimes the blessing is in presence, not performance. You shift in your seat, hearing nothing but the wind. But that too is a kind of thunder, quieter one. In the Hindu epics, Indra rules the heavens. He commands rain, war, lightning. But once, when his pride grew too large, he was stripped of everything. No weapons.
No throne.
No sky. He wandered alone through forests. The animals feared him no more. The sages did not bow. And still he walked, until he found a hermitage where no one knew his name. There he swept the floor. He fetched water. He listened to silence. Years passed before anyone called him God again. And by then, he had forgotten why it had ever mattered. What is thunder, really? Is it always noise? Or is it also the tremble before it? The moment when the clouds pause, thinking. The hush that tells you something powerful is near, even if unseen. You recall a time in your own life when someone powerful sat beside you. Quiet. They didn't need to speak. They didn't need to prove anything. Their presence filled the room like weather. Full, charged, but gentle. That is what this chapter is. A room filled with weather that will not strike. A sky that watches you sleep. From Polynesian myth comes a tale of Tawirimedia, god of storms and winds. When his brothers tore the sky from the earth, he raged. He howled through the trees. But in time, even he was stilled by love. He watched over sailors from the clouds, guiding without frightening. His storms learned grace, and in that, he became more than rage. He became rhythm. He became song. You imagine him now watching the ocean breathe. Back at your fire, you notice the coals glow like old stars. The thunder still sleeps, far above, curled in the softness of unspoken thoughts. What does it mean, you wonder, for strength to rest? For fire to pause? Is stillness a kind of wisdom that even the gods must learn? In the folktales of the Caribbean, there is a story of a fisherman who meets a man sitting alone by the water. The man is silent, eyes deep, hands calloused. He teaches the fisherman how to read the sky, how to feel the shift in the tide by listening with bare feet. Only later, in a dream, does the fisherman realize the man was the sea god himself, resting, reflecting, waiting to be remembered not as force, but as teacher. You lie back now, the stars above beginning to blur. One blinks, then hides. The wind shifts.
No thunder.
Just the feeling that thunder could be there if it chose. And yet it doesn't. This is the lesson. Power does not always announce itself. And when it sleeps, we learn to listen more carefully. The gods, even the loudest ones, know that silence is a kind of music. One that reaches deeper than any storm. One that speaks not to the ears, but to the bones. And so you drift, held not by noise, but by the quiet breath of thunder before it wakes again. Somewhere, far ahead, a loom waits in the dark. Its threads stir softly. The pattern isn't clear yet, but a shape is beginning, formed not of noise, but of care. You wake before dawn, in that quiet hour when the world still feels folded in sleep. The stars are fading, and the first hint of light slips like a thread across the horizon. You feel it, not just in your skin, but in your breath, in your thoughts. A beginning gentle and precise, like the first tug of a loom being set. Today, the gods do not arrive in fire or storm. Today, they come with cloth in their hands. They come walking slowly, following paths worn by work and waiting. In Japanese tradition, there is a goddess who lives in the sky. Her name is Oriheim, the weaving maiden. Each day she sits at her loom, weaving the fabric of the heavens with light. Threads of cloud, threads of color, threads of time. But she falls in love with a humble cowherd, and when they meet, her weaving stops. The sky begins to unravel, and so the gods separate them with one small mercy. Once a year, on the 7th night of the 7th month, they meet again, crossing the Milky Way on a bridge of birds. For a single night, love and duty are allowed to hold hands. You picture her now, alone at dawn, resuming her place. Her fingers move with quiet rhythm. The world is made, not in a rush, but with patience, with devotion. In the Andean highlands, the story is different, but the threads are the same. There, the weavers tell of Pachamama, the Earth Mother. She is not distant. She is beneath your feet. Her loom is the land. The colors in the woven cloths of the Andes are not just decoration. They are language. Sky blue for clarity, deep red for strength, yellow for harvest. The patterns speak of balance, of relationship, of life that must be cared for in return. When someone weaves, they are not only making something, they are remembering something. You watch a woman in a quiet village, bent over her loom, the mountains behind her vast and unmoving. She hums a song she learned from her grandmother. Her fingers never pause. And beside her, though she does not see him, a god is sitting, watching, listening, breathing with her rhythm. The gods are in the threads, and also in the ones who walk beside them. In many myths, the wanderer is the counterpoint to the weaver. One holds the center, the other seeks its edges. In West Africa, Legba stands at the crossroads. He is the one who opens doors. He does not weave, but he knows every pattern. He laughs often, speaks in riddles, wears a straw hat. You might pass him by, thinking he is just another old man resting in the shade. But if you greet him, if you truly see him, he opens the path. The wanderer does not demand worship, only awareness, only a pause, only that you notice how the path beneath your feet connects to the path behind you, and the one ahead. You think now of those you've passed in your life without seeing. The ones who stood still as you rushed by. Were any of them gods, waiting for you to slow down? In Greece, the fates weave the threads of all lives. Clotho spins the thread. Lachesis measures. Atropos cuts. But who watches them? Who guards their silence? Some say Hermes does, fleet-footed and curious. A messenger, a guide, a wanderer who dances between the threads without getting caught. He doesn't disturb the loom. He respects it. He just whispers stories into its pattern, like wind through tall grass. And so you walk, slowly, each footstep soft as a stitch, each breath like the pull of yarn across your lap. You pass fields, markets, still ponds. In each space, someone is weaving, not always with thread, sometimes with words, sometimes with bread, sometimes with care no one notices. This is how the gods live among us, not in thrones or temples, but in the quiet beauty of what is made by hand, given in love, repeated in rhythm. The weaver shapes the fabric of the day. The wanderer tests its edge. And you are somewhere in between. You find a place to sit, near a wall warmed by sun. You close your eyes and feel it. A tug at the corner of the moment. A thread connecting you to something deeper. You do not pull it. Not yet. Instead, you rest, letting the cloth of time wrap around you, woven by hands older than memory. But even now, just beyond the soft rustle of wind, you hear a voice laughing gently, and footsteps heading toward a distant market. The sun climbs gently over the rooftops as the market stirs to life. You step into its rhythm, a tide of motion, color, and sound. The air carries spice, sweat, sweet fruit, and distant music, all braided into something too complex to name but easy to feel. This place is alive, not just with people but with presence. Everywhere you look, stories flicker behind faces. A boy balances pomegranates in both hands. A woman chants prices with a voice like drumbeats. A man with a crooked smile offers a cloth he swears is magic. And maybe, just maybe, it is. In Egypt, markets were not only for trade. They were crossroads of worlds, human and divine, ordinary and eternal. You imagine the god Thoth walking among the crowd, dressed in plain robes, watching the bartering like a quiet judge, keeper of wisdom, scribe of the gods. In one myth, he listens not to voices but to intent. Who cheats? Who gives freely? He sees it all, not with scorn, but with quiet understanding. The gods, it seems, do not shy away from chaos. They step right into it. You pass a spice vendor arguing with a fisherman. Their words clash like cymbals, but the music beneath is ancient. Disagreement, persistence, the search for fairness. Nearby, a child plays a flute. No one taught him. He just listens, copies the birds, and fills the air with song. Some passersby toss him coins. One stops to listen. One keeps walking but smiles. It's here, in the swirl of movement, that divinity hides best. Not behind curtains or clouds, but in glances, gestures, simple offerings. In Mesopotamian myth, the goddess Inanna descends into the underworld in full royal regalia. She passes through 7 gates, shedding a piece of herself at each one. When she returns, naked and humbled, it is the people who offer her their songs, their dances, their bread. Here in the market, you see the same thing. A woman lays out her jewelry, shells, stones, small charms. She does not shout. She simply waits, trusting her craft will call the right eyes. Each bead is a prayer, each knot a memory. And though the crowd swells and swirls, she remains still, like a shrine no one built, yet somehow sacred. You buy a small talisman carved in the shape of an ibis. The vendor shrugs. For luck, she says. But you feel something else in the carved lines, something old and watching. What does it mean, you wonder, to walk among gods who wear human faces? To bump shoulders with the divine and not realize until later, in a dream or memory. In some African traditions, the Orishas, gods of earth, sea, wind, disguise themselves in the marketplace to feel the pulse of their people. Not to be worshipped, but to listen. They are drawn to the ones who sing while working, who give more than they need to, who laugh in the middle of difficulty. You stop by a man selling dates. His hands are stained with sweetness. He hands you one before you ask. Taste, he says, smiling with only one tooth. And so you do. It's rich, soft, warm from the sun. And for a moment, nothing else matters. Just the flavor, just the gift. Perhaps the gods aren't looking for temples. Perhaps they look for moments like this, when one person nourishes another without condition. You walk on. A dog naps in the shade of a stall. A grandmother scolds her grandson, then presses a fig into his hand. A priest passes in silence, his robes dusty at the hem. No one notices him, and maybe that's the point. In the markets of old Babylon, scribes would sit with reed pens recording sales, debts, blessings. They believed every word written had weight. That language itself held divine power. You think of that now, as a man calls out, praising his lentils, his voice lifting over the hum like a prayer. Each voice is part of the song. Each hand builds the pattern. You find yourself slowing down, not to buy, but to see. The details come alive. The curve of a basket, the shimmer of oil in a jar, the crack in a sandal repaired with love. These are not just things. They are threads in a larger tapestry. And somewhere in the crowd, a figure watches you. Not threatening, not waiting, just present. Their face is unremarkable until it isn't. A moment passes. They vanish. And yet, something in you feels seen. You stop beneath an awning. The day has grown warmer. The noise thickens, not unpleasantly, but like incense, rich and layered. You realize that the divine may not always test through silence or isolation. Sometimes the test is in noise, in distraction, in your ability to remain kind while pulled in all directions, in whether you can still see the sacred while haggling over oranges. And so you breathe. You carry your ibis charm in your palm, its shape warming to your touch. The market continues behind you, buzzing, blooming, beautiful. You step away not because it's over, but because its lesson has landed. There are gods in the quiet, yes, but there are gods in the crowd, too, hiding not above you, but among you. You follow a narrow lane out of the market, where the noise fades to birdsong. Ahead, the earth opens wide into golden grass. There's someone in the field, sitting still, listening. You can't see their face yet, but you know they are waiting. The road opens into a field, and the field opens into stillness. Tall grass sways in slow rhythm, as if breathing for the earth. And there, at the center, sits a child, small, barefoot, humming something soft and circular, a tune that seems older than the land itself. You approach slowly, not wanting to break the spell of it. But the child notices you without surprise. They smile, not wide but gently, a knowing smile as if you've arrived at just the right time. In many myths, the gods take the form of children, not to rule but to remind. Small hands, big truths, a voice not trained, but true. You sit beside the child. They say nothing, but the silence feels full, like a bowl holding clear water. In Hindu tradition, there is Krishna, the divine child who plays the flute. His music doesn't just soothe, it reshapes. Cows walk calmly toward it. Rivers bend to listen. Hearts, even guarded ones, soften. He steals butter. He dances with shadows. He teaches without preaching, because play is also prayer. You listen to the wind thread through the grass. The child begins to speak. Not loudly, not hurried. A story about a bird that forgot how to fly and learned instead to walk beside clouds. Sounds like a dream, but it feels like truth. In Egyptian lore, the child god Horus is hidden in the marshes after his father Osiris is slain. Isis, his mother, shields him from the wrath of Set. He grows not in palaces, but in reeds. The sounds around him are frog croaks, wind in papyrus, fish slipping through water. And yet, when the time comes, it is he who restores balance to the world. Sometimes what grows in hiding becomes the strongest of all. You glance at the child beside you. They are drawing shapes in the dust with a twig, circles, spirals, stars. Each mark feels familiar, though you can't say why. In Native American stories, there is the figure of the sacred child who speaks to the elders, not with arrogance but clarity. Sometimes they ask questions no one dares ask. Sometimes they answer questions no one thought to pose. Always, they remind the tribe of something forgotten. The child here looks up and asks, "Why do grown people forget how to sit still?" You don't answer. You only smile. And in that pause, something opens in you. A door you didn't know was closed. There is laughter nearby, light, bell-like. It comes not from the child, but from the memory of laughter, echoing through the field. In Andean myth, the trickster child god plays pranks not to harm, but to reveal. He hides an elder's staff, only to lead them to a path they were meant to find. The divine child does not shout to be heard. They speak in riddles, in pauses, in wonder. "Do you know where the sky begins?" the child asks. You look up. You start to speak, but they shake their head. "It begins in your eyes," they whisper. "Every time you look up kindly, you feel the truth of it. Not in your mind, but in your breath. The sky is not just above. It's a way of seeing." The child lies back in the grass, arms folded behind their head. The clouds drift slowly above, pulled like wool across a loom. For a while, you lie beside them, watching in silence. You begin to feel how time softens here. In Buddhist stories, there are tales of divine children who see with clarity from birth, who point to the moon not so we worship it, but so we see it. The lesson is not in obedience. It's in attention. "Will you remember this?" the child asks, still gazing upward. You nod. "Not with your mind," they add, "with your breath." The golden voice is not always music. Sometimes it is a question. Sometimes it is stillness itself. You turn toward them, ready to speak, but they're already rising to their feet. The grass seems to part for them, and the sun rests gently on their shoulders. They walk without looking back. But before they disappear, they hum that same tune again. And just like that, they're gone. You remain in the field a little longer, letting the air settle, letting the silence echo. There is no proof that the child was divine, only the feeling that something in you has softened, that something forgotten has returned. You begin to rise, and as you brush dust from your palms, you notice a small spiral drawn into the earth, and beyond it, a path narrow and quiet, leading toward the edge of a grove. You follow it slowly, for you've heard that veiled figures sometimes wait at gates, watching, still and silent, to see how you enter the in-between. The path narrows and the trees lean in. The leaves above form a hushed canopy, their edges soft as the breath between questions. You walk slowly now, not out of caution, but respect. Something is shifting. Ahead, a gate stands open. Not grand or gilded, just wooden and worn. No fence surrounds it, no wall. Just the gate, standing alone in the clearing, as if the act of passing through it matters more than what lies beyond. You pause. At every true threshold, there is a pause. Not to hesitate, but to listen, to sense the shift between what you've been and what you're becoming. And somewhere near, though you cannot see her clearly, a figure waits. She is veiled, still as a flame that does not flicker. There is something sacred about these in-between spaces, places where one thing ends and another begins, but neither has fully arrived. Doorways, births, deaths, twilights, the soft edges of the world, where time bends inward. You feel it in your body, a quiet pulling inward, a breath held. In ancient Greece, Hestia presided over these spaces, not through spectacle but through presence. She did not ride chariots. She did not wage war. She was the hearth, the sacred flame at the center of the home. The first offered, the last extinguished. Without her, the gods had no place to meet. Without her, a house was only shelter, not a sanctuary. She rarely appeared in myths, but she was always there. At the threshold of every home, it was Hestia who greeted and who guarded. She did not open the gate. She was the gate. And so now, standing before this gate in the woods, you feel her presence in the stillness. Not asking anything of you, not testing, not speaking, just being. Waiting to see if you recognize her. Nearby, a breeze stirs the edge of the veil. The figure does not move. You're not sure if she's looking at you or through you. In Celtic tradition, there is Bridget, goddess of healing, poetry, and flame. She too waits at thresholds. She blesses the first cry of a newborn, the first spark of a forge, the first word of a poem. She blesses beginnings, but only if you meet them with open hands. In old stories, Bridget comes in the night to homes that leave out offerings. Milk, bread, a soft cloth. She does not knock. She does not wake the sleepers. But in the morning, the hearth is warm, and someone has swept the floor. You step closer to the gate. The veiled one says nothing, but the silence feels full, like an invitation. not a demand, a choice. You think of the thresholds in your life, moments when you were no longer who you were, but not yet who you would become. How did you cross? Did you rush? Did you resist? Or did you stop, just long enough to notice the veil before you? In some African traditions, spirits wait at doorways to offer protection, but only to those who honor the crossing. A gesture, a word, pause to acknowledge. To cross without reverence is to forget the rhythm of things. To enter without noticing is to remain in some small way outside. And so now you wait, not for permission, for presence. The veiled figure tilts her head slightly. Could mean anything or nothing, but you feel something release inside you. You are no longer trying to see her face. You are simply sharing her stillness. In Japanese Shinto belief, torii gates stand at the entrance to sacred spaces, not to keep out, but to remind that you are leaving one world behind, that your next step belongs to something holy, even if that holiness is simply your own awareness. The gate before you is not elaborate, but you feel the air change around it, thicker, quieter, like the hush inside a held breath. You place your hand gently on the wood. It is warm, not from sun, but from something older. And as you step through, you feel a soft pressure behind your ribs, like a voice that doesn't speak, but steadies. The veil shifts again, but the figure remains still. She does not follow. She does not vanish. She remains, because that is what she does. She is not the guide. She is the one who waits for you to find your own feet. On the other side of the gate, the world feels slightly different. The trees open up. The light changes. There's a clearing ahead, and in it, an old well. You do not know yet what waits there, but you carry something now, something invisible and weightless. The memory of a stillness that met you without demand. The veiled gods are not worshipped loudly. They are honored in gestures, in pausing before you speak, in placing your hand lightly on a doorframe, in offering a kind word before crossing a threshold. These moments are small, but they are sacred, because the gods of fire and thunder show their might through storm, but the gods of gates show it through quiet. You look back once through the wooden frame. The veil is already dissolving in the morning mist. Or maybe she was never there at all. Still, you feel watched, not judged, not measured, just seen. And that, perhaps, is the greater grace. Ahead, the path bends slightly. You follow, footsteps soft on the mossy ground. There is a sound, low and steady like running water or breath. A voice waits there, but not to greet you, to ask a riddle, to shift the shape of things, to show you the truth in trickery, the kind that only a shapeshifter can share. The path ahead feels less steady, not dangerous but uncertain, like walking across a reflection. Each step ripples, softens. You can't quite tell if you're going forward or if the world is simply folding around you. There's laughter in the air, somewhere behind you or ahead. You can't place it, but it follows you like a shadow that grins. This is the terrain of the trickster, not to frighten, not to harm, but to stir, to tilt the mirror, to shift the light. You arrive at a pool smooth as glass. Beneath the surface, your reflection waits, but it's not quite your face. The features shimmer, distort, your mouth smiling before you do, your eyes blinking after. A ripple passes through you. This is how they begin. Not with answers, but with questions that don't wait for replies. In the myths of the Yoruba, Eshu stands at the crossroads, offering two paths, both possible, neither safe. He wears a hat that is red on one side, black on the other. Two farmers argue, each certain of what they saw. Eshu laughs, not cruelly but knowingly. He does not lie. He simply shows the truth from more than one side. You sit beside the pool, still watching your reflection change. Not for deception, but for revelation. In Norse tales, Loki is laughter in the hall and fire under the floorboards. He shifts shape not to hide, but to provoke, to pull truth from comfort. He is a mare, a fish, a fly, a mother. He births monsters and moments of brilliance. He is both gift and grief, but always he reflects the gods back to themselves, not as they wish to be seen, but as they are. You breathe slowly, let the riddles rise like mist. The trickster gods do not demand understanding. They invite it, then vanish before the answer arrives. In Native American stories, Coyote is both fool and creator. He lies, he cheats, he dances, he places stars in the sky, but spills them along the way. He teaches not by rule, but by mistake. And often, his chaos is exactly what the world needs. What if wisdom isn't always orderly? What if laughter is also a key? You hear it again, soft laughter, circling the trees. A figure flickers behind the branches, not solid, not still. Their clothing changes each time you blink. Feathers, fur, gold, ash. They wave, but the motion seems upside down. They speak, no louder than a breeze. What if the thing you fear is the only thing that will free you? You don't answer. You don't need to. In the world of tricksters, answers are not final, they are doors to more questions. In the stories of India, Krishna, who once played as the divine child, also becomes the playful god of riddles. He steals clothes to teach humility. He hides in plain sight. He offers truth wrapped in jest. His flute is not only a song, it's a summons to dance, to release the grip of certainty, to remember that not knowing can also be divine. You rise and walk along the pool's edge. The trees lean in, then away, then in again. The forest does not hold a single shape. Neither do you. The tricksters remind us, identity is not fixed. It is fluid, a river, not a stone. The pool beside you reflects. Again, not your face this time, but the people you've been. Child, questioner, helper, wanderer. Each one flickering, rising, returning. And behind them, always, a presence watching with amused affection. There is no punishment here, only play. Only the soft undoing of what you thought you had figured out. Even the gods are not always certain. Even the stars don't always know where they will shine. In Pacific Island stories, the trickster Maui steals the secret of fire, slows the sun, lifts the sky. He is bold, mischievous, daring. But his greatest gift is this. He never stops asking, what if? You pause now, mid-step, not lost, not confused, just awake in a new way, less attached to knowing, more attuned to feeling. The figure appears beside you now. Not a god, not a stranger, something between. Their face holds no single age. Their eyes shine with too many jokes to count. They touch your shoulder, not to guide, but to turn you slightly toward a path you hadn't noticed before. A path that leads not forward, but inward. They speak again, not with sound, but with suggestion. Truth is not a single mirror. It is many pieces held loosely. Then they vanish. The air stills. The pool is quiet. Your reflection has returned, but it's softer now, less certain, more open. And perhaps that's the point. Not to find the final truth, but to keep circling it. To laugh when the path bends, to bow when the answer dances just out of reach. You walk on. The trees thin. The earth flattens. Ahead, shadows begin to shift, not with movement, but with meaning. There is a stage waiting there, a mask resting in the center, and behind it, a voice preparing to speak. One that might not be yours, but somehow will feel like home. The land opens before you like a breath held too long. The trees pull back, and the sky widens, soft and pale as parchment. You find yourself at the edge of something shaped, not by nature, but by hands. Stone seats circle an open space, a clearing carved into a theater. Empty now, but waiting. In the center lies a single mask. You approach slowly, the hush around you deepening. No audience, no actors. Just you and the mask, and the sense that something unseen is listening. You kneel before it. It's not ornate, just simple wood smoothed by time. The features are blank, eyes hollow, lips parted. But as you look closer, you feel as though it's looking back. In many sacred traditions, performance is not pretend. It is invocation, not acting as someone else, but becoming a vessel. In Indian temple drama, the Kathakali dancer dons paint and mask to become gods and demons. His body becomes story, his hands become language, his face no longer his own. For hours, he does not perform the divine. He hosts it. You sit in the amphitheater's first row, though no rows exist. Just earth and stone and the faint memory of clapping hands. There, under moonlight and firelight, voices once rose. In ancient Greece, the chorus spoke not for themselves, but for the city, for fate, for the truths too large to carry alone. Their masks amplified, not just their breath, but the weight of what they said. Pain, joy, prophecy, layered over human faces, echoed through gods. You touch the mask gently, feels warm though no sun touches it. Not haunting, not hollow, just waiting to be worn. In West African ritual, the Agungun dancer wears a full-body mask, layers of cloth that spin with the wind, representing not just one ancestor, but all of them. When the drums begin, he does not move as himself. He moves as memory, as lineage made visible, as voice borrowed and sacred. What does it mean to wear a mask? Not to hide, but to reveal what words alone cannot say. You lift the mask carefully and hold it before your face. The world doesn't change, but your hearing sharpens. Your breath slows. You begin to feel other stories waking inside you. A young woman calling to the sea, her song rising as foam. An old man walking backward through time, holding a child's laughter. A god with many hands, each playing a different note. None of these are yours, and yet they are. You've worn many masks, not in ceremony perhaps, but in life. The face you show at dawn, the voice you use with strangers, the silence you wear when words won't fit. Are these false, or just different windows into the same house? In the dim light of memory, you recall moments when your voice didn't sound like yours. Moments of sorrow, when you spoke more gently than you knew how. Moments of joy, when words flew from you like birds. Perhaps we all channel something. Perhaps the mask is not a barrier, but a doorway. The stage before you flickers, not with people, but with possibility. You see shadows rise, not frightening, just indistinct. They act out scenes you almost remember. A woman blessing a child's first step. A warrior laying down a sword. A stranger singing into an empty room. Each wears a mask. Each becomes something more through it. And behind you, unseen but sensed, an audience of quiet presences listens, not judging, but remembering. You lower the mask now, resting it gently in your lap. The wind passes through the empty eyes like breath. In Balinese tradition, the topping dancer becomes the soul of the mask, not only playing a role but carrying its spirit. Each gesture is offered, each movement a prayer. You imagine wearing the mask not to perform, but to pray, to speak what cannot be spoken as yourself. And somewhere inside, you understand, the voice behind the mask is not false. It is freer, less bound by fear or name or history. It says what needs to be said, not just for you, but for all who cannot say it themselves. You rise, holding the mask with care, not to wear it now, but to carry it forward. You step from the theater as day begins to break. The light spills gently onto the earth, touching stone and leaf and skin alike. No applause, no ending. Only the feeling of something old having passed through you and left you more whole. Ahead, the land rolls out into soft golden hills, and beyond them, something ancient waits. Not a god, not a story, but a memory without age. You hear whispers of the afterlife, not as a place far off, but as a continuation, a stillness braided with every voice that came before. The sky above you is simple now. No strange colors, no signs, no shapes pressed into clouds. Just stars, small, countless, familiar, and yet not quite. You lie back in the grass, arms open, chest rising and falling with the earth's quiet breath. Everything is calm, but nothing feels finished. The journey has led you here, not to an ending, but to a stillness that echoes. And you begin to wonder if the stories you've heard were never about elsewhere, but always about here. Not about gods in distant heavens, but about the sacred beneath your everyday sky. In ancient Egypt, Nut, the sky goddess, arches over the world. Her body holds the stars. She gives birth to the sun each morning and swallows it each night. But she doesn't rule from afar. She touches the world, everywhere. The stars in her body are the same stars above you now. Each one a small reminder. You are not forgotten. You breathe in, not deeply, not with effort, just enough. Somewhere an owl calls, somewhere a leaf falls, and all of it feels part of a rhythm you've always known, but never quite heard this clearly. In Greek myth, when gods grow weary of thrones and temples, they become stars. Orion, placed in the sky to hunt forever. Callisto, a mother bear, rising and circling above her child. The sky becomes a gallery of quiet presences, watching, not judging, waiting, not speaking. You gaze upward, and a thought comes, soft as the wind. What if one of those stars once spoke to you, not with light, but with kindness, with laughter in a market or silence at a gate? The divine doesn't always announce itself. It arrives in gestures, in footsteps beside yours, in faces you almost remember. In the legends of the Andes, it is said that the stars are the eyes of ancestors. They don't watch to weigh your choices, but to remind you that you are part of something longer than time. Each twinkle is a memory, gently returning, and perhaps even now you are being remembered. You think back to the veiled figure at the gate, to the child in the field, to the trickster's laughter and the quiet behind the mask. Were any of them gods? Were all of them? Or were they simply reflections of something divine already in you? In Hindu tales, the gods take 1,000 forms, not to confuse, but to remind us that the sacred wears many shapes. Sometimes thunder, sometimes silence, sometimes a stranger who asks for water and says thank you in a language you didn't know you understood. You turn onto your side, cheek pressed gently to the ground. It feels warm, as if the earth has been waiting for you to rest. In some African stories, the afterlife is not a place. It is a way of being remembered. To speak a name is to keep it alive. To offer a story is to keep a soul moving. The gods walk with the living, but also with those who've passed on. They carry songs instead of swords, and every time you tell their tale, you become part of them. You wonder now, how many times have you brushed past the sacred and kept walking? A glance on a train, kindness at the corner, a stranger who said just enough to shift your day. Perhaps these were not moments to be solved, but to be noticed. The gods, after all, are not always grand. Often they are subtle, close, familiar. In Japanese belief, there are kami, spirits of trees, rivers, stones, ancestors. They do not live above, but beside. Not separate from the world, but stitched into it. You listen now, not with ears, but with breath. And what you hear is not a voice, but an opening. Not a word, but a welcome. Maybe the journey didn't lead outward. Maybe it circled inward, gently folding you back into the place you already were, but softer, more awake. You look at the stars one more time. They are still just stars, and also not. Each one is a door. Each one is a name. Each one a spark left behind by something greater that once walked among us and chose not to stay above, but to dwell quietly within. You close your eyes. The sky remains, and as your breath slows, you feel it. The presence beside you, not loud, not glowing, just there. A memory not quite named, a warmth that needs no fire, a gaze that does not seek to be seen. And in that space, before sleep comes fully, a final thought flickers. What if you've already met one? Not in temples, but in passing. Not in prayer, but in presence. And what if, just once, they recognized you first?